I'm so honored to be here with some friends. We're sitting here at a kitchen table, and we're going to talk about some of the issues that I think a lot of families are talking about around the kitchen table right now. We want to talk also, we've got 22 tribal nations here in Arizona. There are issues that affect your family, but I also think there's a lot of commonality we have.
Thank you, first of all, for inviting me to be here with you all. I work with over 300 tribes throughout North America and Canada. Our whole mission of our program is to how do we strengthen families and keep families together and reunite families. Because I tell people, if I want to destroy somebody, I don't destroy their house or their cars, even their employment. I destroy their family. And right now, that's happening to us across the country. They're destroying our native families. And so we're here to help.
That is a big problem, and we need to make sure that's not happening. We want to strengthen the family.
It's important to talk about. I don't think people are really bringing those traditional values onto the next generation, and I'm very concerned about that. We have a lot to talk about, and we could really talk about just a few issues, and we hope that building this starting this conversation is going to be productive, and we're going to have more conversations after that.
Well, and you mentioned tradition. I think that's so important when you think of our Native American community. For a lot of Americans, they're seeing their kids change so much, and they yearn to have them grow up a little bit more like we did. Is that a pretty common
Yeah,
thread?
I think a lot of us probably have a story or two about that. I know Albert probably started his organization to do something about it.
By profession, I'm a marriage and family therapist. I've been a therapist counselor since 1971. I've seen the erosion of family. For a long time, it was the government that did that because we had to go to boarding schools. I'm a product of going to boarding schools too. And so I grew up on the reservation. And there's a lot of beautiful things about our tribes on the reservation. But one of the things is separation from mom and dad, children. And so that really impacts the family a lot. And a lot of times, and I go to a lot of prisons. I just came from the prison over in, down in Florence this past week. They have what they call a powwow. It's not really a powwow, but they call it a powwow. And when I go to the prisons, I tell men and women this. There's two kinds of people in prison. One kind is the kind of people in prison is that they are unfamiliar with a good life. They're good men and women, but they're unfamiliar with a good life. They've never had a good life. They were born into a family that had a big addiction issues, violence, a lot of chaos in the family. So they're not familiar with a good life. So they didn't know how to be a father or a mother. And then the other kind of people in prisons are they were good, they were raised in a good home, but they, whatever reason, they turned their back on goodness and they rejected that. And when people come see me, this is my formula. Number one, you learn the importance of being kind. And if you're married, you start by being kind to your wife or your husband and your own family. That's where you start. Number two, you got to become useful. You just can't be present. You have to be useful to people. And then number three, I said, now, this is the strongest thing you have going for you. Let's look at your attitude. If you have a bad attitude, you literally push people away, your own family. You have a good attitude, you'll invite them in. But the thing about attitude that's so crucial is that if you have a good attitude, that's one of the ways you learn because you can be instructed, you can follow instructions if you have a good attitude.
I know the traditional side because I was raised, and then I moved down here to the valley because some of the issues that Native people, they always say, get an education, which is very important, and that's what we stress in our families as well. Unfortunately, there's not very many jobs on the reservation, so we always have to travel away. It's the values that I instill in my kids, right and wrong, being kind, being. My dad was a big person that said, it doesn't matter what a person looks like, what color they are, what shape they are, you are kind. And if they need help, you help them.
What are some of the challenges you're facing now? I mean, maybe even now compared to 5 years ago. Are there new challenges you're facing?
You can, like for me, I'm constantly working. When prices go up, whether it's gas, whether it's utilities, whether it's groceries, and look for something that's going to sustain you, and not just to make ends meet, but sometimes it's paycheck to paycheck. And unfortunately, there's a lot of people in that situation, not just the Native community. It's hard to tell your kids no, but sometimes you have to.
Increasingly more and more,
Yeah,
sadly.
and
Yeah.
it's difficult, it's hard. We kind of have to tighten our belts a little bit about what we spend, how we spend it, and kind of have to plan and budget.
You always have the worry for your children, but
Yeah.
now we have an additional financial worry of how can we get by? How can we get through this? Life on the reservation, though, has got to be more expensive because so many of the tribes are in rural areas, and everything that is sold there, most of it, needs to be trucked in, and it's a lot further. So prices, how you talk to your family on the reservation, are they struggling more?
Yes, because gas, like here, gas, groceries, everything is on the rise and has been for the past couple of years. It's been expensive. A lot of things with the rural communities on the reservations is that they have to travel to go get those services. There's like a 2-3 hour drive over 300 miles to get to a certain place because it's like the border towns.
Yeah.
Like Kienta is kind of almost in the center of the Navajo reservation, so they had to either go to Farmington or to Flagstaff or to Page or Cortez, smaller towns that border the Navajo reservation, and they had to travel there, and you got food and gas,
Right.
and then they had to come back.
I think economically, I know, for a lot of our communities, maybe about 60 to 70% of us live in urban areas. So we live in Albuquerque, Phoenix, Los Angeles, Minneapolis. So we're feeling the pinch, from an urban economy, probably even from the rising crime that's going on in our cities. But I think we can talk about, why, we're moving to urban areas for the economy, but right now we're being faced with so many challenges. We're opening our wallet. We're saying, should we pay for dinner or should I do something about the healthcare, the mental health that we're facing? And I think Melody can talk about that a little bit.
The life on the reservation and life here in the urban area with Native Americans here is totally different. People have to travel to go get water, just to, they're still doing that today. I grew up in the IHS system. I know how it is to get care from IHS facility, a government facility. To be honest, it's not great. It's not great at all.
How can we improve, in your opinion, Indian Health Services so that some of the issues are being resolved? What do you think maybe the top two or three things?
I would have to say education is one of them. Informing the indigenous people that this is what we need. We need someone to educate them more on the condition that they're facing, whatever ailment they may be diagnosed with. That needs to be explained to them. The medication that's needed and why it's important to take that medication so that they can be able to take control of their own health care along with their primary care physician. I believe that's one of them. Two, I think it's I would have to say honestly, Kari, empathy that lacks in the IHS system. Physicians, nurses that I know they're overworked. I know it's a lot of work being up there. A majority of those people are not from the reservation. Understanding of the culture, because it's very different when you go to westernized medicine and then you're trying to teach someone who's more of like an old grandparents, old Navajo grandma and grandpa. They're taking to things is a lot different than if you were to go talk to a elderly down here in the city. It's very different.
There's too much government control. Simple as that. The Native people are dependent on federal government, housing, law enforcement, health, education, roads. Everything is federal government. And therefore, we're at the bottom of the barrel. It's federal government, state government, or tribal government. Government is still government. And that's why there's no free enterprise on the reservation. Learn the truth. You can't become dependent on the government because they will take advantage of you, regardless of what kind of government it is.
I feel that people are waking up in just the general population to the overreaching government, the too much power, corrupt government. Are you also seeing that on the tribes?
Yes, when somebody's given a lot of power, I say this. I tell my fathers and mothers this. When there's lies, deception, and secrets, there is always corruption. Always.
There's schools. I try to go to the schools as much as possible and be involved because there's the risk of fentanyl.
That's
And
so scary.
it's really scary.
Well, and I think all of us know somebody. It might be a family member, it might be a close friend or a friend's family member who's lost a loved one to fentanyl. And when you think about this border being wide open, and not to mention just people pouring in from all over the world, we don't know who they are. Our communities already aren't safe, and now we have God knows who coming in. But the drugs are what really scares me because I've talked to on the campaign trail so many moms and dads, and you could always tell they wait until the end of the campaign event. Everyone's leaving, and they have a sadness in their face, and they come up and say, "I lost a son." I'll never forget the mother who said, "I lost a daughter. She took what she thought was a half a Xanax pill, and she never woke up." First of all, half of any pill shouldn't kill you, but this is such deadly poison. And our kids don't realize it. They think they're taking something that is just a pill, it's safe, it looks real, and it's not. And so I'm sure that's affecting you. You probably see it at the hospital,
Yeah.
unfortunately. And one of the things I see happening all over the country, and truly in America, and you touched on it, Al, is we're only as strong as the most powerful institution in our country, and that's the family. And the family's struggling right now. And the government has done a lot of things, I think, to actually weaken the family, and doesn't look very often to strengthen it. And I was talking to some folks who really have been nervous about being a mother and things like that. And we talk about the abortion issue all the time, but we rarely talk about how can we make a woman the best mother possible? How can we build the family? And in other countries, I talk about Hungary all the time. They started to support the family, and I don't mean giving handouts, but a tax break, a cut here or a cut there. We give tax breaks to big corporations all the time, but what are we doing to actually encourage families, encourage healthy families, encourage people to become mothers, women to become mothers? And I think there's so much more we can do there. I mean, what are your thoughts on that, Al?
Well, I tell people this, the hardest thing you'll ever do in your life is to raise a family. That's why some people walk away from it, some people run away from it, because they don't want that responsibility. And it takes courage to raise a good family, not guts, courage.
How can more help be available to people who are struggling? You talked about Indian Health Services. Is there counseling? There's only one of you, Al.
Thank goodness.
We need more of you. And I know for counseling, marriage counseling is important, family counseling is important, and you always hear, no matter where you live, there's not enough counselors, not enough help out there. Where can people go to find that help so they can be the best mother or father?
If you really want to help your family, fathers, you take the lead and call your family to prayer every night. That will
Brings the family together.
Simple, brings the family together. I says, as a marriage therapist, people talk about communication. That's important. But what's more important is interaction. You got to interact with your children and each other. Every tribe I've worked with, over 400 tribes, they all believe in the Creator or God. We've got to bring that back.
I think that's a common problem in all of America right now. It's we pushed God out.
Yes.
Right. And we really need to bring God back in. Who are recognizing the direction things are going, it's not sustainable, it's not healthy for their families, for themselves, and are now looking back to what Al was just talking about, saying that is the way. That is the way to mend and heal a lot of what's wrong.
With what Al said, how God is like being taken out of, the marriage, the family, and the home. We see that today because right now in America, like there's a lot of this like politically correct stuff. And, being, my generation now, it's like, why? Like, this is not how it's supposed to be, this, because I guess it has to go back to the way you were brought up. And I know in some Native American homes that it's like a consistent merry-go-round where the fathers always leave, or the uncles, or they just leave. The men in the family leave. The fathers mainly leave, so they're not there to be the father figure that the little children need. But I'm blessed that I had that. But majority of the homes on the reservation, they don't have that. Families don't have that, and I think it's a cycle that needs to be broken.
Is there a receptiveness to hear that
Very much
message?
so, yes, I do.
And are you seeing a lot of more people taking those steps that you're
Oh,
suggesting
yes,
to
very much
achieve
so.
that,
All we're doing is reminding you of the old ways. All we're doing.
which you already know?
And you already, it's in your blood, it's in your DNA, like I said. You recognize the message. Now, we tell this to them. All children are our children, all children, regardless of their race or their color or that. So he said, all children are our children. Now I say, if you're not Native American and if you love our people, we belong to you, you belong to us, we belong to each other. You got to invite them. We don't preach to people. We invite them to listen to our message, and they come. Here's the Native message: is it true? Ask the Creator if it's true or not. And people are doing that, and they find, yeah, because they connect with the message.
I think that kind of, ties into opportunity. How do we increase opportunity?
How do we bring opportunity, more opportunity? Is it bringing business in, manufacturing?
That would be good to bring in more businesses. There's the dependency on the government. So if there's more opportunities for businesses and on the reservation, they have the challenges of the bureaucracy. I'm very blessed that my parents had a long marriage. My parents were married for 60 years. And I have that example in my family. And Michael's parents also have been married for, I don't know how long have they been married.
Probably over 40 years.
That's
Yeah,
great.
43 years.
It's
And
that
then-
foundation is so important.
It's important.
And you're just blessed when you have that, right?
And it is, I see a lot of, everybody kind of touched on it, is the God has been taken out of families. It changes children because they don't see the mom and the dad in the home. So there's father absence.
And sometimes
It's
when
not-
mom's working so hard too, mom's absent,
Yeah.
but you got to put food on the table, right?
Exactly. And then we have that dependency on the government on the reservation and here in urban areas as well. So they kind of make it hard to get out of that cycle because you're dependent on the government to help you. So why do I need a man if I can rely on the government?
How do we get that off ramp so people can get off that cycle? Is there anything that you see could be done to show people that there is this off ramp to get out of that cycle and take an off ramp and try something different?
Well, it's going to take a lot of work.
Sounds like some of the work that Al's doing.
Yeah, you're going to have to work hard. You're going to have to, and not saying that a lot of people do that. There's a lot of families out there that work hard to work 2 jobs. They're struggling to make ends meet. But it's kind of hard to do that right now with the economy being so bad.
Is the off ramp for people to move into more of the urban areas? It seems like that's the path to at least more economic success.
Yeah, that's where the
But
jobs
then
are.
you're missing the tradition of living back on the reservation.
Yeah.
So my mom, she was in college, she had us little kids. And this is where the motherhood and fatherhood is sacred, where the family come together. I remember growing up, my mom going to classes, at NAU, and my dad was at home making us sloppy joes every night, or hamburger helper. I don't eat that stuff anymore because I ate it so many times. But that teamwork, that motherhood and fatherhood, that the family unit, and having that is very important. And I think that's what a lot of
Chipping in and
families
helping when you need it.
lack.
I think the off ramp for that is just more opportunities, more options. I think a lot of us, are in Indian country feel I'm Native American. I don't have an option. This is my choice for healthcare. This is my choice for school. And I think all Americans are feeling this pinch of no options, lack of real opportunities, lack of upward growth. We're a people of emergence. And, I think no one really feels that push down feeling more than probably our communities are going through right now. And this isn't just happening, in Navajo or, anywhere in Arizona, but a lot of rural Arizona is feeling this. A lot of people that are, parents with 2 jobs, or 3 jobs, we're not doing it. We're not making it.
Right.
So, it's increasing opportunity, building back kind of a sense of pride of not only our native communities, a sense of pride for Arizona, a sense of pride for the United States.
Yeah.
We don't have that much anymore. And, I'm optimistic that more people that are waking up to what we want to accomplish is not just a partisan issue anymore. It's something that Americans need to do together.
I always go back to what my dad said to me. He goes, "There's someone, how bad do you want it?" And I was like, "I want it." Well, good, because there's someone out there right now studying harder and longer than you are. So what are you going to do about it? So I went back and I studied and harder longer than the person out there studying harder than me did. So
That's a victor mentality. When
Yeah.
you go from being victim to a victor.
It boils down to opportunity.
Al and Melody, Gaylene and Mike, I think we know there's a lot of challenges, and I think that every American's facing them right now. I, like you, have not just hope, I have confidence we're going to move through, and I'm honored to spend time with you. I'm so happy to know that there are leaders like you working across this country on the tribal lands, and frankly, just all across the country, who recognize that we can strive to be better every day. And I want to work to bring opportunity to the reservations, to the tribal lands of Arizona. It's too important of a part of our state to let the abilities and the future of these great people not go realized to their full potential. So thank you for your time today. And I hope we can keep this conversation going. We can expand it, we can bring friends, and let's do this again. Sound good?
Yeah,
Yeah.
great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.